So first up, we have the Arizona Cardinals. They finished last year 8-8 and third in the NFC West. Over the offseason, they made a pretty big acquisition for J.J. Watt. Um, he was let go by the Texans and surprisingly signed to the Arizona Cardinals. Um, so this year is going to be their third season under Cliff Kingsbury with Kyler Murray as the starting quarterback. I think Kyler's made some strides in his first two seasons. This year, the Cardinals are going to need to develop a more steady and a more consistent running game to help Kyler out. I don't think that the run and shoot offense that Kingsbury brought with him from Texas Tech, I don't think that that works all that well in the NFL. You're going to need a good running game to balance it out, and you're going to need consistency from your offensive line um, just to build that camaraderie, to have the offense running on all cylinders. I know Kyler's really good with his legs, but they need a specific running attack coming from a good running back or maybe two or three in the backfield. That's going to end up taking pressure off Kyler, and they'll be able to have a little bit more success, especially in that tough division that they play in. Um, the NFC West is going to be tough. It's going to be tough this year, and I don't think they'll be able to win the division or even make the playoffs if they don't have a consistent running game. It's a very young defense. The defense is really, I think, it's going to come along this year. They're really young. I think the addition of J.J. Watt makes a big difference. I think he's going to not only play well, but I think he's going to mentor some of the young guys. And I think they're gonna make some strides defensively. But the offense is where they need to develop and build more chemistry. They need a consistent running game. Last year we seen the running game with Kenyon Drake. We seen these guys show flashes, but it needs to be consistent in order for them to get out of the AFC West or to even make a wild card. These guys, they need to be more consistent. I think Cliff needs to develop the offense. He needs to develop the offense. It needs to look a little bit more like an NFL offense. Um, I know the offense is the run and shoot offense is very nice to watch. It's like basketball on grass. But when it comes down to it in the playoffs, you're gonna need to be able to run the ball, control the clock, um, and not have your quarterback throwing too many times. You don't want to put your quarterback in that much danger. And Kyler's a smaller guy. I know he's a little bit stockier, but he's still a small guy. You don't want to drop your quarterback back 50 times and have him hit 10 or 15 times in the game. It's going to take a toll on his body. So I do think the Cardinals, they need to develop that running game. Their defense is going to come along. I don't see them making the playoffs this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I don't see them making the playoffs this year. Um, I think the division is too stacked. Obviously, you have Seattle, you have the 49ers, and you have the Rams. So this is going to be a tough division to get out of, and I do not see them making the playoffs. But like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, especially if Kyler came along and led this team to the playoffs, because I think the way that they play and the way that their team is set up, he's going to have to lead them to the playoffs. So, you know, I think they're going to come along. I think they're going to make strides. I think they finished this year 10-7. We have that extra regular season game, that 17 game. So I think they finished 10-7. I don't think it's good enough to get them into the playoffs. Um, Maybe a wild card if things fall in their favor, but I do not think that they get to the playoffs. But I do think they make big strides. Um, and I think Cliff Kingsbury will be on the hot seat at the end of the year. The seat won't be extremely hot because they have made progress and they have come a long way from the pre Kyler and the pre Cliff Kingsbury era. But I do think I think he's going to be on a little bit of a hot seat just because they they expect to be in the playoffs. They started off really well last year, and then they struggled down the stretch. So I do think that he'll be on the hot seat, but I don't think he'll be fired. I think he'll get one more year to be able to get this team to the playoffs next year. But I just don't see it this year. I really don't. Um, but like I said, I wouldn't be surprised. It would be a pleasant surprise if they do get to the playoffs. They are fun to watch, and I think they'll be improved. But that division is tough. It's the toughest in football, and I think they'll have a good season, but they'll be home when it's playoff time.